So you stumbled upon our podcast.
Hope you got a lighter.
What's up? I'm Lotta Quise.
It's your boy Quise. Welcome to Functional Potheads.
In here, gotta start lighting up. But what you smoking on, homie?
Today, I have a couple of things. I have Insane from Burnwell.
Word. What is that cross? Do you know? Like
No,
everyone's on it.
No one knows. I gotta check Fat Panda. So Fat Panda rebranded it, and it's Insane in the membrane.
Yes, it is.
And I think they may have some type of lineage information on it, but I haven't found anything on it.
Thankfully, our tags, we include the crosses in them if we know them. And I'm pretty sure what I'm visually seeing is unknown.
Yeah. So it's a really bright, really bubbly sativa. I mean, lots of limonene, like that citrusy, almost like a sweet undertone. Really fucking dope. And then Petro Rainbows from Sky High Gardens.
Word. I've been trying to be good, with buying my bud and everything, but what I saw on the shelf that I had to grab, I like White Widow. White Widow is like a real important strain in my life. Not necessarily first strains, but probably like I was first learning about strains and being able to get weed with strains. I remember smoking White Widow.
So, question.
Yeah.
Is that their straight THC White Widow, their 1-to-1 White Widow, or I think it's a 10-to-1 White Widow that they grow?
The total is 19%. CBD is 0.2. But it has 12% CBA. So when I heat it up, I'm going to get a good percentage of CBD.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's their 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Fat Panda's 1-to-1 White Widow.
I would say it wasn't the freshest harvest, but like I'm mixing it with some of that purple train wreck, a little bit of tobacco, and it definitely has helped my mood, which has been spicy today.
I feel like that's one of the many therapeutic uses for cannabis. And I feel like CBD definitely like kind of pushes that agenda, like that really like slow, pump your fucking brakes. You know what I mean? Vibes.
Yep. But last night, I will tell you, after working for like 3 very physical days, probably doing about 20 miles of walking, and that was 3 days, I splurged and bought myself a Sitka pre-roll, and it was the best decision I have made.
Yeah, they're golds. So for anybody who hasn't smoked the Sitka Gold, it's basically a joint with really, really good cannabis, and then they take a piece of old school hash, like old school Lebanese style hash, and they heat it slightly, and then they work it to like a sheet. And then they take that sheet and then they fold it over the joint. So essentially you have a cone of hash around your joint. The amount of cannabinoids that are available in that style of hash is beneficial, medical. Like it's good shit. Shout outs to Sitka, because I do love their Sitka Gold joints.
Yeah, it was their Black Mamba weed strain because it was the indica leaning pre-roll with Lebanese red around it. Lebanese red hash. I was like, had to go get butane and a torch because I heard lighting it is a deal. Yeah.
Get it a little harder to get it going. A little bit about Sitka as a company. The 2 owners, one of them, I believe, is Lebanese, and he went to Lebanon and learned how to make hash like the old school way. Came back and they created the company. Another one of the owners was by trade a graphic designer, if I'm not mistaken, and he made all the graphics for all their packaging.
Wow, they're beautiful. The joint comes in a wax topped container. It looks like a little present to yourself. You unwrap it, and I took a bath, so I felt hella fancy. But I was like, after I lit it, I was like, oh, it's just a little joint, getting that. Enjoying myself, and then I was like, in the tub, something just came up and was like, boom, you high. Just punched me right in my shit. And I was like, man, I feel a little bit lighter than myself. Like you feel more than you.
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, that's how I felt. And what you should know is cannabis affects everyone differently. But I would say if you are in the state of Washington and you are having a particularly rough day and you have about $30 to $40 to spend on a pre-roll, you see those bad boys on the shelf, go ahead and get you one. Go ahead. It's going to be worth it.
Or stop in the shop, like a lot of shops do, like pre-roll days, 20% off. That'd be the day to grab it.
Yep.
You
But they go quickly because the people that use cannabis medicinally, you're right, they love them.
It's the cannabinoids. It's basically the style in which Lebanese hash is made. It preserves most of the cannabinoids. It's basically an extraction. So you're taking all those cannabinoids and you're gathering them and you're putting it into this 1 gram, and you're able to like take that 1 gram and like have everything that the plant has to offer, just about.
Wow. I'm so glad that I did it.
The Baker's Man Collective presents
And we're back. We just wanted to go right into cannabis news recently. And my first thing that I wanted to talk about, because I thought it was intriguing, it's really, really, really weird. So it's a couple cannabis pages that I follow on Instagram. And I heard a lot of talk about Snapchat basically forming a task force, a drug task force. If anybody hasn't known, ever since about 2015, they changed their user guides. Since then, they have been pivotal in a couple like really big cases of people going to jail for a really long time. At first, it was just for prostitution and things of that nature. Now they've recently branched off and hired a whole small task force to basically be like their liaisons, like the buffer between Snapchat and the DEA. And there have been like a couple cases that came up where Snapchat has been used in someone's court case. So I just wanted to give a quick warning to everybody out there who's using the Snapchat to jug and say, you shouldn't be using any fucking social media site, point blank period. It just doesn't make sense. Like there's people who have cases that span across 3 states right now and have gotten themselves knocked off, their growers knocked off, all because they wanted to stunt with like a couple 100 pounds in a Sprinter van. These platforms are not for that. Like that's not at all what they've ever been about. And after the dude from Craigslist got hit with I forgot what the exact charge he got hit with, but that set precedent for like anything that would happen now today. So if you have a website and your website is helping anybody commit a crime, you can be charged with being an accessory to that crime. Ooh. So because people were sex trafficking off of Craigslist, the dude from Craigslist is now serving a crazy jail sentence. I mean, platforms like that, they're no different. The CEOs don't want to go down because you want to sell a couple products.
You heard the news. Get up off them shits. And you just need to follow the money. So Facebook owns Instagram. It also owns WhatsApp, which is international and real popular. So these are the same people. If they're doing it with one program, then why not? And I think Snapchat's just getting on board things that the other big time tech companies are already doing.
Yeah, like a lot of times it's like either you play ball or there's going to be a problem type of deal. For them, it's that they got in the game not to help somebody sell illicit drugs. They got into the game for the technical side of things to connect people. But like people just need to understand like these platforms are not for you. Just beware.
Facts. In some other news, it was intriguing to me to do enough Google searching, but my Google searching was to try to figure out why the fuck this was news. You ever have those moments you see something that's popular and you're like, why is anyone talking about this?
Why does anybody care?
Yeah. So this company called THC Biomed announced that they're selling joints with filters in Canada now. Like maybe there's something I don't know. That can't be just it. Like y'all just discovered how to put a tip on the end of a joint. That can't be what the fuck y'all are writing an article about.
Yeah, companies have been doing that shit for a while now.
For a while, and people have been doing them for a really, really long time. Out of anything, really. They'll find something if they want to have a filter at the end of their joint. But
now, maybe what they're referring to is an actual filter like you would see on a cigarette. But even then,
what are you filtering out?
Joysticks has done that, but I know their filter, it's a little bit wider than the cigarette would be. So maybe they've done some different type of filter.
That's it. That's what I thought. I was like, okay, maybe this is a dope filter. Like I got into it. I found it and I was like, okay, this one doesn't have enough. So like, let me go on their website. Okay, there's no details of how special this filter that they added. That would be the important part of this conversation because otherwise it's just a fucking filter, bro. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it at all. So any Canadians out there, or maybe THC Biomed yourself, can you answer that or send me the link? Maybe I was high and I missed it. Hello, help us out. Let us know what is going on. That's it. And that's all. Oh, no, that's not it. That's all. What I was thinking about is that I've had this conversation or this talk about how the different ways you consume cannabis affects you at least like 20 times in the last 3 days. And what that tells me is that not enough people use the internet, one, or the stuff that's being put out on the internet isn't clear enough for the common man.
What I found, like in my time spent in rec shops, they're dated. A lot of it is secondhand knowledge. So it may not be something that someone sought out themselves. It may be something that was told to them by a friend of a friend 10 years ago, and that's just fucking law now. That's just where they are with it. And some of it is just ignorance, man. Some people just like, I mean, like, this is how I do it. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I will do it forever. I don't give a fuck what you say to me right now in this shop. It doesn't matter because when I leave here, this is how I'm going to do it.
Word. That's real. I've experienced that as well. I realized that really quickly. Like, it's like a study on humanity when you work in the customer service industry and you are working face to face with people, and even more so when you have to take something that is pretty scientific and requires a certain level of knowledge at this point in the game.
Boiling everything down to its base and being able to put it in layman terms fast enough to be a sales pitch and still informative.
Yes, exactly. Budtending. The definition of budtending. So I saw an article that kind of did that really quickly. It was like just a little blog post like, hey, quick little update. If you eat it, it takes a while, but it's going to last longer. If you smoke it, it happens really quickly, but it goes away relatively quickly. And I thought that was so nice. And I just said, let me mention it. Let me put it on here. I know we've talked about it in different episodes along the way because we are trying to give you this free game. We trying to give you this free game.
Next is legalization across the nation. So something I'll probably always draw back to because I feel like legalization is definitely a big and important part of the cannabis industry. So with voting coming up, there are a few states that they're going to basically pin people against other people by dangling legalization. I mean, but some states like would really benefit from it, like New Jersey, Nebraska, Ohio, Oklahoma. And a couple of those, they're trying to position themselves and dangle this in front of their people to basically say, hey, like, if you vote for me, I mean, I might be a Republican, but I'm soft on weed. Or I might be a Democrat, I mean, and have a party pass, I mean, but I'm soft on weed. I really want to legalize. So it's fucked up because that's how it's happening, but it's still good in the sense because it is happening, and a lot of other states are looking at it because the states that we'll talk about next are legalizing, and they don't want to see their state lose money. So I feel like after November, we're going to see like a wave. Depending on how everything plays out, we're going to see an immense wave of legalization, especially across the Midwest of the country. We're going to see a lot of legalization in that area. States coming up for legalization, Arizona, a little background on Arizona. They are pro-industry, so they want to be somewhat like Washington. So instead of everything be vertically integrated, it'll be like more of an industry, level playing field. They do want to have about 26 social equity licenses available. The wording for that specific portion of legalization is still being worked at this point, but from what I understand, it will be given to people who have been basically infected by the cannabis portion of the war on drugs. And they will have one of the lowest retail taxes for the state at 16%. So that means a higher profit margin for the companies that are running and selling weed and the companies that are growing the weed. And it also means cheaper, possibly cheaper cannabis taxes for the people buying in those areas. Likelihood of it passing is fairly high. It's right now they're looking at like 46% in favor, 45% not in favor, and the rest people, they're not really sure how they fall or where they fall into that. So it's really gonna come down to what happens with those undecided people. A big one, Mississippi, they are legalizing not for recreational but for medical. A couple of different organizations got together and gathered signatures to place a business-friendly cannabis market, medical market, which can quickly be pivoted, like once everything gets there, to a legal market. There's a very high probability of that passing because of the support shown by people that live in that state. Montana, another big one, because they were really, really big in the 90s for jailing people with crazy charges for cannabis, and they are looking to go recreational with their market. And they are doing one of the biggest things for their state, in my personal opinion, that is profitable for the citizens of that state. They don't want to allow people from outside to be able to come in and put money into the market. They want people who are residents. They're going to have the strictest, because they have some of the only residency requirements, and they only want Montanans. I thought that was pretty dope. And another thing, to ensure like the medical market gets their fair shake, they're giving them a 12-month head start. So when they first open up, if they decide they want to get licensed and they want to go recreational, they'll have a 1-year head start on any business following. So if I'm a resident of Montana and I'm like, hey, I want to get into the game, I get some money up and I decide I'm going to do it, I have to wait a year for my application even to be reviewed before, I'm able even to open my store, because they letting these guys have first dibs. I thought that was pretty tough. Next up, I talked about Jersey quite a few times. Jersey is a very high likelihood of passing. Lawmakers, they're still trying to decide how many licenses they want to distribute. They haven't said anything about any type of programs for the people as far as what Mississippi has set up. Just to get the ball rolling in Jersey, I think is a big thing. And it will also push New York and Pennsylvania to really look at legalization, because they'll start to drain money from the programs that's already set up in Pennsylvania for the medical program. And New York should have been on the forefront of legalization on the East Coast, but it is what it is. Right. This will light a nice fire under their ass. Right. And last but not least, we have South Dakota. Oh. They want to legalize not only medical, but they also want to legalize recreational at the same time. A 2 for fucking 1. So basically what that would mean is
a lot of work.
A mass moving of people. They would have to have 2 separate organizations set up within their local government to regulate like how exactly medical is going to happen, how exactly the recreational market is going to happen.
Task force, all types of stuff.
They are also going to be overriding local government's ability to say, we don't want cannabis in our area. Not for recreational. They'd be able to block recreational, but they wouldn't be able to block medical.
Dope.
So if I wanted to open a medical shop, they'd be able to override that and be like, hey, like this is for a medical purpose. Like you wouldn't be able to tell people they can't have like a foot doctor in this area because you don't like feet. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's pretty dope. The recreational market, the way everything's set up, they already have more than enough people interested in licenses. So to get a license there would be extremely hard. And I'm guessing that's because they didn't put any stipulations forth for what type of outside help or what type of outside money would be coming in to North Dakota and South Dakota as far as foreign investments. My guess, there's going to be a lot of companies like Have a Heart. There'll probably be a few of those guys, bigger cannabis companies that are already established, that will be established in this area. But it also pushes the states around them to really look at their legalization and where they sit with cannabis. So for the Midwest, it's going to be a big year, but I think there's going to be like a slew of legalization.
Yeah.
Midwest and the South. Mississippi legalizing in the South is major.
Yes, for sure. I am glad to hear all that news because you know what? That means that this local government took this time that they had to figure shit out. Like they really started like processing what's going on around them instead of just trying to survive because everyone's at home, everyone's like paused. Now they're getting their mind open and probably smoking a lot of weed because let's face facts.
And you know, and one of the big things you always say, follow the motherfucking money. They're looking at Illinois right now and they're like, what the fuck? Like we could be making all this bread. Like, and they're thinking about all the money that they're losing in taxes because people aren't moving the way that they usually move because of COVID, and they're processing it. And like, sadly, that's what it comes down to for a lot of things to happen on that level. And the money has to, like, for it to make sense, it has to be centered around the money. And the money's there. So
I watched a little docuseries, and I don't mean little, I think it was a massive, like awesome documentary. However, it was short enough for all of you folks that can't watch something longer than 15 minutes. It was a 3-part docuseries, all under 15 minutes, and it hit home the California move to legalization. And I think it was finally updated from how it started to where we are right now, because a lot of the things you see, like everyone's like, yeah, they're fucking up. But like this topic was like in pieces, it told you, this is how it developed. This is how they messed up and who they alienated by messing up. And here's the next group and where we're at right now and what we need to do to fix it. And I think it is a good roadmap for any state's person that is talking about cannabis to sit down and watch and see how not to do it, what issues not to do, you know what I mean? Like it's right there and it's short enough that you could do it as a team meeting. Just hit play and listen to people talking. And it dives into the medicinal industry that started and then that was like destroyed by the recreational industry, and how poorly regulated the recreational industry is, that it's funneling money into a black market there that they can't even catch. And it lost all love on the original people, which were individuals who needed cannabis. They had terminal illnesses. It was like a really good documentary. And I don't want to tell you all the stuff. I mean, I sort of did, but please go watch it for yourself. And if you're interested, this is like the things you need to be aware of, because cannabis touches everything.
At this point, yeah.
So many groups, factors, troubles, like, you know what I mean? The war on drugs, like all of it, policing, every social issue that we're having right now, the cannabis industry has been impacted by some way, some form, somehow. Ooh, goodness me, oh my, I'm getting all hot and flustered.
Get it in.
Oh my goodness, we're just giving it to you. I also saw something that was great that just recently dropped, which was a terpene study. And I'm still understanding the ins and outs of this study for myself, but the purpose of it was to figure out what happens to terpenes, like in a I guess a laboratory setting. Where do you lose it? Where does it evaporate? Like, they were able to focus on the movement of the terpenes. And I thought that was awesome. So the findings of the study was that at the fresh planted state, a cultivator, the highest expression of monoterpenes like beta-myrcene, alpha-pinene, beta-pinene, and limonene, after 1 week of drying and curing, each of these terpenes decreased significantly. And it broke down at what percentage these terpenes evaporated off.
I would love to check that out, but I could tell you why. The floral scent of terpene, like a lot of plants, the main reason it takes on the smell that it takes on, which would later become the taste, is for basic reasons. Flowers use certain terpenes to attract bugs for pollination. Certain things are to repel bugs. Cannabis produces a lot of different terpenes that repel bugs, that repel mold. So when it's growing, those terpenes would have to be present so that plant doesn't mold, because if it molds, it dies. That plant doesn't want a whole bunch of bugs, because if the bugs come and they wreck the plant, then the plant dies. So it excretes all these terpenes like in really, really like big amounts. And if anybody has ever taken like a tour of a garden or ever grown a weed plant on their own, you know how stinky the shit gets in like its last week or so. Like it really bags. And that's just basically to keep pests and unwanted things away, or to attract something. Like, say a plant may stress itself and produce a certain amount of terpenes to attract something and eat it because it has sprouted seeds. So now that thing eats the weed and then goes and poops somewhere, and now those seeds, which is essentially the same genetics, is now able to thrive somewhere else.
Word. So I think what I failed to explain was the study was talking about how the curing process affects terpenes.
Yeah.
That's what it was really focused on. And they were able to figure out where these terpenes kind of ended up at. And it was also discussing why more individuals are leaning towards live resin vape cartridges or live resin dabs, because you get more of the terpene profile. And that's
the entourage effect.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing them together. I also learned that if you get a live resin cartridge, you need to hold it down for a little bit, warm it up so the terps start.
So the terps mix in, because what happens is separation. I mean, terpenes will naturally want to separate from the more viscous oil. So once you heat the oil up, the oil loosens, the terpenes seep back in.
Science is so awesome, bro. The things that they're doing and they're researching and they're finding out. And to think that the plant itself has like adjusted and adapted, and from there, not even if you think about it in the ground, like the whole microsystem and stuff that goes on, the communication of the molecules, it's so fascinating to talk about.
And how we're able to take this plant that like is doing its own thing, and we're able to take it and manipulate it and consume it, and like be able to receive those benefits. Like that's herbalism, man. From that, right into terps talk. And my terpene for us today is omsamine. So that is usually what gives cannabis like that sweet, earthy taste that you get. But one thing that is known for when paired with other terpenes in a certain fashion, it gives you that mintiness, like the peppermint type of taste, parsley or orchids type of, type of deal.
I was just talking about this terpene the other day. Because doesn't it cook off first? Like, it'd be specific, low temp for you to actually get this thing.
It has a very low temp point on it.
I'll be learning.
It rarely plays a lead role when paired with certain things. It often owns itself to be able to give like those certain hints and aspects. But it is one of the terpenes that is represented amongst a great group of cultivars. It's what gives clementine the taste of a clementine instead of just a regular orange bud. It gives it like that little extra added tang, like florally. A few other things that it is present in high amounts: Dream Queen, Dutch Treat, Golden Pineapple, and Green Crack. It also is believed to be a protective agent or part of a plant's defense mechanism against harmful elements like pests, aphids, which can determine what you yield on your cannabis crops. The same way mosquitoes like to stay away from certain oils, like citrus oils. That's what it does. I mean, it repels them.
Okay, well, now we know how this turd be talking. Thank you.
Oh.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
The Baker's Man Collective presents.
Welcome back. We're gonna hit you with the light up and listen section. So, what you been listening to?
My first choice is actually a deluxe version, and I really am not a fan when motherfuckers do this shit. But they drop the album does alright, but they trying to boost the album sales, so they release a deluxe version of the album because that basically bumps the initial sales of that first album. Yeah, I mean, so I'm not really a big fan of this shit. But I will say this. Weezy dropped the deluxe version of the Carter 5, and he dropped tracks that should have been on the shit in the first place. He should have put the shit on the mixtape and added a few more tracks, in my personal opinion. But I think it's definitely worth a listen for sure.
I'm pretty sure I listened to it because I was like, oh, Lil Wayne dropped a new album. And I was like, but I thought this album came out already. This says deluxe album. Damn, they got my ass again. But it was playing. I was like, oh, this shit ain't that bad. You know, like it's good riding music. It's riding music.
Yeah.
So I can't be mad.
Shy Glizzy, Young Hefe 3. Shy Glizzy is a Washington, D.C. artist. He disappeared for a while. He dropped like some tracks here, some tracks there. But he just dropped Young Hefe 3. And it brings me back to banging like Young Hefe 2 when I was back home, like doing reckless ass shit. You know what I mean? But it's hustle music. You know? It's get up and grind, some party tracks on there. It's a good one. Definitely worth a listen.
I'm pretty sure I played it because I like Shy Glizzy. It's the beat for me.
I think it's a new wave of DC artists. A little less rough around the edges, a little bit more flair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The hood side of like what Wale's doing.
Exactly. I recently have been listening to A$AP Ferg, Floor Seats 2, because he's been putting out music, but he chilled for a bit too.
Ferg. Yo, I wasn't fucking with Ferg for a while. He made me a fan again.
I'm glad, because I enjoyed the album. I was driving way too fast. And like it makes you feel just a little bit ignorant, but with like a fancy ignorance, you know, because he just got words. Also, Spillage Village, Jid and Earth Gang dropped an album, and I don't know how to say that. It's tight. Check it out.
That shit's fire. There's some bangers on there, yo.
Very good vibes, and I really do enjoy Jid.
Yo, I fuck with like that whole setup, yo. I really, really fuck with Earth Gang. I really fuck with Jid. I really fuck with Spillage Village, yo.
Yes. Finally, Action Bronson dropped an album. He's also been ghost for a minute.
So let me tell you what the fuck he's been doing now. He has dropped dumb weight, like first and foremost. Like he's been on his workout shit, like heavy. He's also been on his food shit. So just recently, I was online and he dropped 2 different types of ice cream and cake.
Wow.
Yo, like somebody would drop a fucking album. And pint of ice cream, I wanted it so bad. I was like, yo, this is bugged. Like I would never spend this much money in real life for the shit, but like splurge like a little bit, like. But it was like $29, right? But you can't buy the pint and get it delivered. You gotta go to New York for the shit. To get it delivered, you have to buy 3 pints, which is $100. Yo, and you can't buy a little bit of cake. You gotta buy a whole cake.
Big weight.
Yo, I was like, but you know what's crazy? I went back on it like 2 days later. Sold out.
Of course. He has fans because the man is talented. And he says the most provocative and delicious shit. He just be eating crazy kinds of food and also sometimes a little bit off-putting with his words. I'm like, oh, that's a visual I didn't need.
I mean, he can rap.
He can.
He can make ice cream. Like, he does it all.
Exactly. I am a fan. The album is called Only for Dolphins, so please check it out.
I thought that was a funny name.
Right. I need to see if there's any interviews he's done, like, press or whatever, but it seems to me that he doesn't have to do that for it to blow up in the right circles. So
I imagine there's dolphins somewhere like, yo, this nigga spitting.
You know what?
Whole album just for us.
If there are any aquarium workers out there that, be cleaning and hanging with the dolphins, can you play the track for me and see what happens? I just want to see what happens.
Honorable mentions.
Yeah. I'm going to do mine too real quick because I feel like
mine isn't going to be an honorable mention. This is going to be a dishonorable mention.
Exactly. We're going to go with the honorable mention. So Joji, who sets a vibe every time this man, our individual, releases music, because I don't know your gender pronouns, album called, or EP called Nectar. Oh, just... it helped me feel a kind of way and get that emotion out. When you have an album take you through an emotion and then just be able to leave it at that. That album is that for me over the last week or so, week and a half. And then Bryson Tiller just dropped an album called Anniversary. I liked Trap Soul.
I fucking love Trap Soul. I stood in the rain for an hour to see him and Travis Scott in Boston at the fucking House of Blues, my nigga. They did a double header, right, at this venue, which was the dumbest shit I ever heard because the fucking timeline didn't make sense. So the first concert was 18 and under, and it was from 5 to 7. Mm-hmm. The doors for the second concert were supposed to open at 7:30. The show started at 8:30. Because at this time, Bryson Tiller only had just that one project. Yeah. And Travis Scott only had a few things of his own under his belt. Yeah. Last Days Before the Rodeo was like the big thing that he had dropped at that point. When I got to the door, Travis Scott was leaving. So yeah, that fucking sucked. But yeah, I still to this day, I'd stand in line again.
I saw Bryson Tiller, man, that night was crazy. But the concert itself was the shit. Right. Like, so dope. It was just Bryson Tiller down. I think that place burned down. Like, the roof caught on fire. But it was a great time. And then he started seemingly not being a nice individual out there in the world. And I was like, well, like...
Oh, shit. See, I don't be paying attention to this shit, yo. What was he doing?
He was standoffish to crowds. Like, the kind of reserved air that I would say him and potentially Black give.
They're not people.
Yeah, you understand that about them. I don't think Black is disrespectful about it, and Bryson Tiller was, and so that was like all the talk. And then the next project didn't really do it for me. I'm pretty sure there was another project after Trap Soul, but I can't really remember it.
Yeah, I can't either off of the top of my head. So we're going to segue right to somebody who might not be nice to someone who's definitely not nice. And that's Tory Lanez. But know what you did, Tory.
What's his real name? What's his real name? It's awkward.
I feel like it should be Bartholomew or some shit like that. Something that just sounds like a big ass head. But this crazy shit is, even though he has like a mega mind head, even though he's like hella crazy and like he has a iffy ass hairline, even though like, I mean, he talks crazy shit and steals people's like verses and like little snippets and shit, I still fucked with him. But then he did what he did and he Harlem Nighted Megan. And after that, like, I decided like I'm good. Cause he was already doing corny shit, but I was like, the music's good. I can forgive that. But then when you do some shit like that to a black woman, that's something that I can't forgive. Yeah, I mean, so I can't really fuck with you. But I try to listen to the shit that he just dropped. So I go on Spotify, and it's not the premium membership. So it's like, we're going to play it for you, but you're going to take it in the fucking order that we give it to you, bitch. So I'm like, all right, cool. You don't got to be all fucking wild. You know what I mean? Just play the track. And so the first shit that it played was the song that he recorded about him not shooting Megan Thee Stallion. The thing that I don't like about it is because I feel like he used a tactic in a very deceiving way. So you try, as a black man, to pin other black men that's listening to this shit against another black man because of what he said about your actions. So he mentions Bun B and a couple other rappers, and how Bun B said he needs to rot in jail for what he did, or like he needs to go to jail for what he did. He basically makes a reference like, you see what motherfucker said about me, but everybody has my number, and if they felt any type of way, they could have called me directly and asked me. But you did it though, my nigga. And you did it, and now you're trying to alienate other motherfuckers because of your decisions. That's just highly wild to me.
Oh man. His name is Daystar. Daystar, get your shit together, buddy. It all starts with you, your ego, your behavior. Because how the fuck does someone get hit with a bullet from your gun? Not anyone else. Your gun. Explain that one. It just magic? It just randomly happens?
I mean, even if it was an accident, all right, cool, it was an accident, but you were brandishing a firearm in a threatening way to a black woman because you were upset and embarrassed about whatever situation. However the fuck the shit played out, it's just not something that's acceptable. And the reason why everybody's so outraged about it is because you have the spotlight. You are sitting in a position where you can possibly influence who knows how many people, you know what I mean, in negative or positive ways.
You told to stay quiet to save your own ass.
Supposedly, like, it was made known that he apologized. And then you renege on the apology for controversy for your record, to
make some last money,
or whatever the case may be. I don't know.
That's the last nail, huh?
Yeah.
You were lucky to even be able to talk in her ear. Y'all was in the same space, bro, and she ended up injured. So get it together, bro. Get it together. Like, we wanted to support you.
It is what it is.
On that dishonorable mention, it was dope you took the time to have a day with us.
Remember, we're just two functional potheads out here trying to bring light and truth about cannabis.